I know. Design. Okay, there we go. Now we have audio. That was weird. I had to disable my microphone and then re-enable it. But awesome. I hope y'all can hear me now. So my name's Dan Whitfield. Sorry about that technical difficulty. It should pop in here just in 1 second, honey, because I can see my mic is working there. But my name's Dan Whitfield. I'm the independent candidate running for United States Senate here in Arkansas, and we are running to unseat and replace Tom Cotton. Today I'm going to talk about a few things such as COVID-19 and how we have hit 1,094 cases in a single day, how our schools have more than 422 active cases in just a couple weeks, and then we'll also talk a little bit about ballot access because I do have some updates with our case for y'all, and then we can talk about where I'm going to be this upcoming weekend and where I'll be next weekend. So we do have quite a few things to talk about. All right. So let me see here real quick. I did see a question from you, Lisa, and you asked if I'm going to be on the ballot. So right now we are still in the legal process to obtain ballot access. We have a very good case. I'm confident we're going to win. We are just working our way through the process at this point. Let me check out all these other things. All right. And it looks like we are all set on here. Sweet. All right, so where we are with ballot access, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my court documents here. And where we are currently at is we were approved for oral arguments, which is awesome. That's our next step moving forward to get ballot access. Now, what that means is they sent us a calendar with September, October, November, and so on, and they haven't set the October, November dates yet, but they have already set the September dates. That's why people like Chris Birch would be like, well, we've already seen the September oral arguments list and you're not on it. Well, yes, we are technically not on it yet, but my lawyer is working on that because it is not uncommon for high priority cases to replace a case on the upcoming oral arguments. So we are working on getting scheduled for the September 21st to 25th oral arguments, and my lawyer is going to file to have that done, because if we are not on the September oral arguments, then it will cause irreparable harm to our campaign, and it will also cause basically an ensuing electoral chaos if we do get ballot access in October. It would be impossible. So we are working on getting into the September oral arguments and seeing if that we can replace one of the smaller cases that isn't as high of a priority as our cases. Another thing that's important to talk about is we do have standing for the Equal Protection Clause. So we are still trying to do everything we can to get on the ballot. My lawyer is working on my reply brief. He had told me Wednesday that he would have my reply brief done by Friday night to file, and he hasn't responded to any of my emails, and he didn't. I don't know what's up with it, but he did not get our reply brief filed on Friday. So I'm expecting him to have that filed bright and early Tuesday morning, since Monday is Labor Day and the courts will not be open to file. So we are looking at having our reply brief filed by Tuesday morning, and then hopefully getting on the oral arguments for September. And that's where we are with ballot access right now. So we're doing everything possible to get our ballot access, and we're going to continue trying to get the process move forward. That way we don't have to worry about when early voting starts on, I think it's October 19th, that we will already have our case heard by then, and my name will be on the ballot, and then y'all won't have to worry about, do I vote for a Republican or a Libertarian that votes like a Republican? So that's where we are right now, as far as ballot access is concerned. All right, let me see here. Just checking out comments real quick. All right. But I do appreciate you guys spending your Saturday evening with me. So that's where we are for ballot access. The next thing I wanted to talk about is where I will be tomorrow. So tomorrow we are having a Bridge the Gap BLM protest in Harrison, Arkansas. And there will not be Antifa there. There will not be any extremist groups there. It's still just going to be the movement for Black Lives Matter, not the Black Lives Matter organization. And I'm really going to, when I went into Harrison last week, I went in really ignorant and kind of blind to the full picture of what was going on there. And since then, and throughout the process, I was actually able to get a little bit more on both sides, what's going on, how people feel, and how the community has already been working towards racial equality. And so what I really want to focus on tomorrow is basically opening up a dialogue, creating conversations, and having people talk about their concerns, and then talking about why the BLM movement is important to them, or why they don't appreciate the BLM movement, or why, you know, some people are going to be like, well, all lives matter, not just Black lives. And you know what? You're right, but all lives can't matter until Black lives matter, because it's a big giant problem that goes into systemic racism. No, systemic racism is not a myth. Wealth inequality, income inequality, affordable housing, equal educational opportunities, things, those are all really there. It's not a myth. So we will be talking about that tomorrow in Harrison, and I'm looking forward to that. And then in 2 weeks, we will be going out to East End, Arkansas to do another Bridge the Gap conversation starter with the local community there, where we can just do the same thing. Open up conversations, start a dialogue, and listen to people's concerns and talk to them about what the concerns are of the BLM movement. So that's kind of where that is standing right now. Looking through here. I haven't done any more campaigning really. I've just been focusing. School started back up, so I've been doing school, been working. My daughter's school started, so been being a teacher and all that good stuff. But I am working on getting another campaign tour going. So what I would like to do is I would like to do our same 4-day tour in reverse, where I will start on a Saturday over in like north central Arkansas, go over to northeast Arkansas, and then on Sunday work my way down just the opposite way through Little Rock and things like that. That way, when I had finished my tour before, the last 2 days were Monday, Tuesday, and I know a lot of y'all were messaging me and couldn't get out on because of work and things like that. So I will work on getting that tour scheduled here in the next couple weeks, and then I can come out and talk to y'all some more, listen to your concerns, and then see how I can represent you in the legislative process. Oh man, there's so many different things to look at. All right. So one of the downsides of streaming on 3 different platforms is getting questions on each different platform. All right. Put this here, that there. Sweet. So now every single Saturday night when I can, I do a weekly live stream Q&A update where I'll talk a little bit about where we stand with our legal process, a little bit about what's going on, and then I will answer any questions y'all have. So throughout this live stream, make sure you ask me any questions. And if you ask me a question, I'll answer. I know I get questions all the time, of course, on social media because I handle all my own social media. But I would much rather answer your questions live like this for you to hear my response in person. Awesome, Isabella. Yeah, that would be great. I can't wait to get back to Russellville. It would probably be... I would guess on a Monday is when it would end up being. So I will let you know exactly when that is. And maybe I'll just break the tour down and just keep it to the weekends and do a Saturday, Sunday in Northeast Arkansas, Saturday, Sunday, Southwest Arkansas, and split it up like that as well. We're just running out of time. Can you all believe it? I mean, Election Day is less than 2 months away. 2 months and 2 days. It's coming up fast, and that's what makes it extremely important for us to get through this legal process as quickly as possible. Let's see here. All these different things. Awesome. So yeah, did you all have any questions? I mean, I can talk about policy, clarification on anything. I know the Blue Hog Tabloid has been having a fun go at me. First, they threw out this basically piece full of misinformation and lies, and then they threw out this other piece with some things from 8 years ago. Let's see. I know we've got so many people ready to do phone banking. We've got the money there in the account ready to start phone banking. It's just hard because until we know for sure if we have ballot access, what do you tell people over the phone? So I am ready to start phone banking. Honestly, we might even want to just start phone banking and talking to people a little bit about what's going on. That way they can be aware of our ballot fight situation and things like that. 75 to 150 people. I think we should be able to swing that, especially as soon as we do have the official ballot access. We should be able to get hundreds of volunteers ready to do some phone banking. And by phone banking, it doesn't mean you actually have to call and talk to someone. You can even just, if you have a laptop computer, you can go onto the program, we'll give you access, and you can text people. And you don't even have to respond, you just click a button to text someone. And if you feel comfortable responding to questions, then I can designate you as a responder, and then when people respond, it'll go to your application on your computer or even from your phone. So phone banking isn't necessarily just making cold calls trying to call and talk to people. It's not scary like that or anything. Let's see. Wow, so the picture is a lot better on Facebook now. That's awesome. Even YouTube. Was able to get my camera dialed in a little bit and set up some sharpness settings on OBS Studio. All right. So, and I've also I received half of the footage that we got from our 4-day and 2-day tours from last month. So I've started going through and processing this video, and I'm looking for different parts of my policy where I can post them on my website and things like that. So also, if you haven't gone to my website lately, make sure you check out replacetomcotton.com and click on the policy tab. And I haven't necessarily updated a lot of the text, but I rearranged the way it looks so it's easier to read, and I also added some videos about me talking about policy. Now, the videos that I'm adding, they're not just reading the script from the policy written, it's just me answering questions about the policy. So anything that I'm missing in those videos, it will be there in text to read as well. Hi, Jeannie. I hope you're doing well. It's been a while since I've met up with you. See here. I just also, I guess this last week, I did an interview with Stuttering John again. Wow. It was a great interview. We had a chance to talk about a lot of policy and a lot of different things. So if you get a chance, you can go to the media tab on my website and you can check out that live stream. Let's see. Andrew Gaber. Hello, Andrew Gaber. I met Andrew Gaber. He was a teacher at the community college. You mean the racist things you said 8 years ago in one of the few sources of independent journalism, which you call a tabloid, in the state found out. You can't stand the heat. Man, it's never been a secret. I was a registered Republican for most of my life. I grew up in a conservative household with, it was very heavy in law enforcement and military, and I was a very ignorant child the way that I was raised. I've come such a long ways in 8 years. I've woken up to what's really going on around us. I mean, from having my daughter born and basically changing my life, just having her in my arms, to basically changing myself through education, learning, waking up to the corruption in our government, waking up to what systemic racism really is and how it is actually affecting our communities. I mean, I'm not going to make any excuses for a stupid comment that I made 8 years ago. It is what it is. And, you know, let's see, the tabloid. I mean, the dude Blue Hog, Matt Campbell, he reached out to my sister's ex-husband, a heroin addict, who pulled a gun on my sister, threatened to kill her and our family, and then she divorced him, got a restraining order, and took the kids away because it wasn't a safe environment. And he contacted that dude and got screenshots from him from when I was 8 years ago. He told my sister he wanted to hurt her, and he found a way to try to hurt her. Let's see here. Yeah, fortunately, he's way off in California now. We don't need people like that here in Arkansas. Arkansas is full of good people, and we want to keep it that way. Covered foreign policy in any of the interviews. You know what? Foreign policy isn't actually a topic that comes up very often because everything that's going on right now, basically with COVID, a lot of people don't talk about foreign policy. But my foreign policy is pretty simple. End American imperialism. We have been spending trillions of dollars in these foreign wars that are happening for one reason: to invade poor countries and steal natural resources from poor people. And that is not what the American military is supposed to be doing. We are not, it's crazy. We are not mercenaries for ExxonMobil and for Chevron. We should not be going into nations to take over their oil pipelines, to destroy the refineries and build our own. We need to make sure that our military is being used for defense, to protect us and protect our freedoms and protect our democracy. We don't need to use our military to go out and bring democracy or freedom anywhere. We don't need our military to be engaging in assassinations of foreign leaders. What we need is we need to minimize how many bases we have. We need to stop the misspending of our Department of Defense budget. One of the biggest problems with our military is a lot of the money that we spend to our military doesn't go to our soldiers. It doesn't go to protection. It doesn't go to anything but basically wasting money to give to foreign contractors and to defense contractors like Halliburton, Boeing, Raytheon, and companies like this. They use the military and fake wars to funnel taxes into their own pockets. And those are the kinds of things that we need to stop. The military-industrial complex is a giant threat to our own national security and the kind of America that we all want to be proud of. We can't be proud of a nation that everyone else in the world hates because we're drone bombing civilians, because we're killing innocent people and creating terrorists. We are destabilizing foreign governments by assassinating their heads and creating these vacuums of power for these terrorist groups to come in and fill. That's not what our military should be. When it comes to foreign policy, I think isolationism isn't the answer, but instead of spending so much money like selling weapons to foreign nations so that they can use those weapons to kill people or to sell to terrorists, we should be doing more humanitarian work. We should be giving more medicine, giving more food, sending nurses and doctors and people like that overseas to these areas where children are starving to death, where famine is taking just huge amounts of people away from us. What we need to do is focus mostly on humanitarian work and making the world a better place, and not so much on sending in the military to kill a bunch of people to steal their oil. But of course, I'm no expert in foreign policy, or I'm not an ambassador. I'm still learning all the time. And when it comes to when you look at foreign policy and when you look at any kinds of policies, the job as a representative is to learn as much as possible. And the best way to learn about these things is directly from experts and people who have firsthand knowledge. Yeah, buying tanks we don't need, aircraft we don't need. we have a lot of waste in our military. I'm not saying the first thing we need to do is just go slash the budget, but the first thing we need to do is audit the budget and figure out where all this money's going. Look at who is using their positions of power to pocket our taxes and to funnel that money into their own accounts, and then pursue criminal charges against them. Put those people in prison for stealing from the American people, and then we can find out where we no longer need to put that extra money, trim the fat, and then we can reallocate that money to more social programs like housing, medical, food, things like that. Let's see. I am just checking out these different platforms on here. Let me hop on my Twitter real fast. Check these comments out. All right, so Twitter's good. Facebook, I think I'm all caught up with. Awesome. So again, if you have any questions, I am here to answer any questions y'all have. Have you used the app to balance the government budget? Would love to see what you do with that. If you're interested, I'll send you the link. Yeah, I would love to see that link. If you send it to me, I'll take the time to adjust the budget and how I think it should be spent, and I'll be happy to share the results with you. Yeah, and you know, when we look at wasteful spending like tanks and airplanes and things, that's not even bringing in the amount of money we've wasted on nuclear bombs. Just since World War II, we've spent over $6.8 trillion on nukes, and we haven't even used a nuke in an act of aggression since World War II. So that's $6.8 trillion that is added to our deficit that never had to be there in the first place. But they just do that so they can pocket our money. Another thing that's interesting that a lot of people don't understand is 40% of our budget that goes into the military, it is immediately classified and blacked out. So over $300 billion immediately is unaccounted for and untraceable. So things like that we also need to put an end to. All right. You know, again, I'm sorry about that audio issue. It says right here my Rode boom mic it should have been working. All right. So let's see. While I'm waiting for questions to come on, is there anything else? Oh, come here, buddy. I'm actually super excited. Come on. You gonna come? Come on. Get off of my microphone. There you go. My mantis just molted, and it looks like she got her wings, so now I know she's a female. There you go. She's my little buddy. She hangs out with me while I work. My daughter wanted a pet, and it ended up being my own pet. Let's see here. It is a lot of wasted money. We have this issue where... Oh man, I think it's walking on me. We have a big issue where a lot of our taxes aren't going into the programs where they're supposed to be. They're going into people's pockets. And that's just one of the many financial issues we're seeing right now. Another big issue is wealth inequality. How trickle-down economics has actually... Oh my gosh. Let's see here. Oh, federal budget challenge. Awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited to do that with you. Let's see here. Starting the federal budget challenge. Oh, let's see. It's actually looks like it's going to be more than just a few questions, so I can wait until after that. Oh man, she's on my ear. Let's see here. Bringing in the mantis earrings, new trend. So another thing that we don't talk about a lot is trickle-down economics or Reaganomics or supply-side economics. When this became our economic policy, that's when we started to see the wealth inequality just grow immensely in a really quick rate. Like just since COVID-19, since this pandemic has started, we've been looking at, I think billionaires have made over $600 billion now, while people are unable to pay their rent and they're unable to pay their bills. They're trying to figure out how they're going to survive and live through this worldwide pandemic. Billionaires are just getting even more insanely rich than oh man. Hey honey, let me get green bean off my face here. Hey bud, you were cool to chill on my shoulder, but I didn't really need you on my face. Come on. Come on, my little cockroach eater. There you go. You can go back up on my microphone now. All right. But supply-side economics really hurt the American working class. So one of the first things it did was it allowed the billionaire class basically to start avoiding taxation, to take all of the money at the top and then send it to offshore bank accounts. I think there's an estimated like $21 trillion in these offshore bank accounts right now that avoids taxation and avoids coming back into our society and our economy, trickling down. So what I think the perfect thing that we should be doing right now is we need to be experimenting with trickle-up economics, universal basic income. And we've seen through this worldwide pandemic how important it is that we start taking care of the working class. We saw when we expanded unemployment benefits by $600 a week for the pandemic that sales actually went up. And after they took away that $600 per week of the unemployment additional benefits, our sales revenue, I think it dropped like 47%. So we have seen that trickle up economics works. When you put money into the hands of desperate people who have bills to pay, they're going to spend the money and put it back into the economy. This creates jobs. This promotes growth. There's nothing bad about trickle up economics. So what I would really like to see done right now is I would like to see a People's Act. I would like to see every single person in America getting $2,000 per person per month until the end of the pandemic. That way we don't have to make that terrible decision of, do I send my kids to school and risk their and my family's health so that I can go to work to be able to pay my mortgage and pay my car payments? Or do I keep my kids home where they're safe and lose my car, lose my house, and lose everything? These aren't decisions that we should have to make when we live in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. We're Americans, and we should be better than that. We need to make sure that people are making a livable wage, that people are making enough money that if you work full-time, you can afford to take a vacation once a year, to take a little bit of time off work, that you can afford to get something nice. Maybe if your tires are bald on your car, you can put a new set of tires on, or if you got a crack in your windshield because one of those stupid dump trucks switched lanes in front of you and knocked a rock up into your car. You should be able to afford to buy a windshield like that. We shouldn't have people that are working full-time living paycheck to paycheck. This isn't a third world country. Per person, Elizabeth, because normally when normally when you look at a household with like 2 or 3 or 4 people, it's probably a larger a larger house. They have more heating bills. Their utilities will be higher, things like that. So it should be $2,000 per person per month. It shouldn't be per household, because $2,000 a house, that's just not enough. Maybe it's enough to pay your rent and mortgage and maybe a couple utilities, but now what about your food and your gas and other things right now that you need? This isn't a normal time. This is a pandemic where people need to be staying at home as often as possible, quarantining, making sure they're not out there spreading this disease. Let's see. You good up there? I have to think of a new name for her. Green Dean just isn't going to do it now that I know she's a female. Let's see. Have you heard anything? Lee, thank you for asking. Have you heard anything from the 8th Circuit regarding ballot access. So we were actually approved for oral arguments, which means they are going to hear our case. They have disregarded the Attorney General's motions to have our case dismissed, the repeated motions to have our case dismissed. So they will listen to us and give us our day in court. Now, September oral arguments, the schedule has already been filled. What we're working on doing right now is getting, basically becoming a replacement for one of the September 21st to 25th cases, because our case is a very high priority. It's basically would be a irreparable harm to the American people if our case is pushed back into October. So we are working on getting to the September oral arguments. My lawyer's working on that right now. Let's see. We are working on our reply brief. I had talked to my lawyer Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And on Wednesday, he told me that he was working on a reply brief, and he should have our reply brief done by Friday. Unfortunately, he didn't answer any of my emails or anything. I can't get a hold of him, and he didn't file my reply brief on Friday like he said he would. So I'm expecting him to get that filed first thing bright and early Tuesday morning, as Monday is Labor Day, so they will be closed for a federal holiday. But we have been approved for oral arguments, which is awesome. And honestly, the last document that they filed, their 28J citation paper, it was a terrible mistake from the Attorney General's office because it made our case so much stronger. So basically, when the Attorney General filed their brief on August the 24th, well, they filed it on the 21st, but it was reviewed and then uploaded so we could actually read it on the 24th. They stated in their brief that though there would be standing for the Equal Protection Clause, we are not eligible to claim the Equal Protection Clause, and we forfeit that right because a United States Senate race, that statewide race, is not the same as a United States presidential statewide race. So they say because a U.S. Senate race is not the same as a presidential, that we forfeit the ability to claim the Equal Protection Clause. Now, on August 25th, the very next day, they filed their 28J citation paper, which was very interesting. So number one, what it is basically on the 25th, after the Attorney General filed their reply brief, the Sixth Circuit ruled on a case in Wisconsin for the presidential independent candidate who was unable to get signatures to get ballot access due to COVID-19. Now, what the Attorney General said was, since the Sixth Circuit ruled that Kishmore, well, they said Koshmore, they spelled it wrong, but Kishmore, that since he was unable to get his signatures due to COVID-19, the courts deemed it was not a severe burden and did not give him ballot access. So what's really interesting about that, number one, they just said in their brief that we're not eligible for the Equal Protection Clause because a Senate campaign is nothing like a presidential one. But then they just basically contradicted themselves by stating, well, because this presidential candidate, it wasn't a severe burden, it shouldn't be for you either. So that opens up the door to the Equal Protection Clause, which if we could get them to enforce the Equal Protection Clause, a presidential candidate for Arkansas only needs 1,000 signatures, not 10,000, and we had 5,954 verified signatures, so nearly 6 times as many as the presidential candidate needed. Now, the other interesting things about this case that they were citing, I don't think they actually looked into the case, otherwise they would have never submitted this paper. So number one, the presidential candidate in Wisconsin, they needed 12,000 signatures. I only needed 10,000. But they had 180 days to collect it, not 90. So they had twice the collection period. They were allowed to begin collecting in January and didn't have to turn them in until July. Now, what that means is if I would have been able to start collecting in January, then I would have been able to get my 10,000 signatures. We were on track to get signatures, and the problem was COVID-19 and the issues of the state from Governor Asa Hutchinson declaring a state of emergency on March 13th, which severely impacted our ability to collect signatures. At that point, we could only collect signatures online and digitally and through things like that. So we only needed 10,000 and they needed 12,000, but they had twice the amount of time. What the Attorney General failed to mention or realize, get this, Wisconsin originally required 30,000, but because of COVID-19 reduced their 30,000 down to 12. Okay, so if we would have reduced our amount of signatures by 60%, we would have only needed 4,000 signatures and we had 5,954. So that, again, that's very important. Now, the next thing to think about is that Michigan's population is 10 million and Arkansas's population is 3 million, roughly. Now, that means they have about more than 2 times the population that we have, more than 3 times the population we have. And if we were to have reduced our signatures to meet that same fraction, and for 10 million people and 12,000 signatures, our 3 million people, we would have only needed like 3,600 signatures. So again, we would have been able to get enough to get ballot access. So this case versus Kishmore really helped us out. And I'm really expecting that they will deem COVID-19 was a severe burden. Another big discrepancy between the Kishmore candidate and myself was they said COVID-19 was a severe burden and they turned in 0 signatures. They said that they were entitled to ballot access. We have never said we were entitled to ballot access. We, in fact, didn't even ask for a ballot access. Originally, we just asked for a signature reduction, a deadline extension, or to allow us to collect digital signatures. We kept doing as many signatures as we could, and we were able to turn in almost 60% of what we needed. So that is another big difference between the Wisconsin case and our case. So basically what I'm saying is they really help make our case even stronger. So I'm more confident than ever that we are going to win our ballot access. We just need it to happen sooner rather than later. And I'm not just going to quit. As long as my supporters, y'all, want me to continue this fight, keep going for ballot access so that we can actually beat Tom Cotton in November, I'm not going to give up on y'all. All right, let me read some of this stuff here. What kind of legislation will you work on to enforce oversight and subpoena power? Is there any other legislation that you would work on and try to end corruption, abuse of power? And that's so important, Thomas, because that's what my campaign is. We are an anti-corruption campaign. There are so many different ways that we can start to get corruption out of our government. And of course, the biggest motivator is a financial incentive. So we need to figure out different ways we can remove financial incentives. We need federally funded campaigns. We need ranked choice voting, so it's harder for these special interests to bribe our candidates. We need to outlaw congressional lobbying so we can make sure that billionaires like the Koch brothers aren't just throwing $10 million into a single candidate's election to help that candidate get elected so that that candidate can in return vote on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which repealed the estate tax temporarily for 1 year when David Koch died, saving his widow $61 billion untaxed. Well, he saved her $25 billion by allowing her to inherit $61 billion untaxed. So, I mean, the financial incentives, we've got to get those out. And once we start to remove these financial incentives, maybe we can start to get candidates who are running for office because it's their duty, because they want to see our country a better place for our children to grow up in, instead of having these politicians who just make a career out of running for office, who make a career out of sitting in that seat, voting yes or no, not listening to their constituents, just doing what they think is best for their people. We don't need that kind of representation anymore. We're not an ignorant society. We're educated. We have information, the freedom of information. We know what's going on. We need to have true representation if we want to be a representative republic or a democracy. But what we have now is an oligarchy. We have billionaires and giant corporations funding these candidates, getting them elected into office and receiving favors in exchange for getting them into office. And what that has done is it has basically sold our legislative branch to the highest bidder. We are no longer a representative republic. We are an oligarch. And the sooner we accept this and start to look at ways on how we can unravel the oligarch's power and take our government back, because our government is by the people for the people. It's not by special interests for the special interests. So those are, just a few things that we need to do in order to try to rid some of the corruption out. I mean, I can go into really crazy ideas like I think that elected officials should give up the right to the Fifth Amendment. You should not be able to not self-incriminate yourself. If you're a criminal, don't run for office. And if you're a criminal and you're in office, you need to go to prison for being a criminal. We should not be allowing people to evade the crimes that they are committing while in elected positions. Let's see. Hey, Kitty, let's see. Dan, how can we help with legal fees? Just donate through donation link on your website. I don't have a lot of money, but I can definitely put $20 to support the fight against the two-party system. Well, thank you so much, Kitty, for wanting to help, but actually, all of our legal fees are paid. We paid $5,000 to my attorney, Jim Linger, for our original case, and then $2,000 retainer for our appeal. And we're $7,000 into the legal battle right now, and it is all paid for. So you don't have to worry about donating for the legal battle. Let's see. Checking some of these other comments on here. All right. So did anyone have any other questions? Because I am here to answer y'all's questions, and I know there are a lot of them. Because when you don't ask me here, I get phone calls all day. I get text messages, I get social media calls, I get all that good stuff. Let's see. And I'm actually really excited to take this federal budget challenge later. Okay. So it's 6:43. Wow, it's already been 43 minutes. How crazy is that? What's up, little one? Man, praying mantises are the coolest freaking pets ever, by the way. Very low maintenance. All right, so let's just do a quick recap, and if there are any other questions during my recap, I'll answer any of those, but then we will go ahead and in my live stream for the week. Oh, here we go, Sonia. Sonia, I don't want to mispronounce your name. Well, she says or asks, how do you feel about GMOs? So, of course, there are going to be genetically modified foods, and I mean, personally, I try to stay away from them. But what I think is really important with our legislation and what our legislators should be doing is if there is a GMO food on the shelf, it should be labeled that it's a GMO. We at least have the right to know what we're putting into our bodies. So I am 100% for labeling GMO foods. I personally don't eat them. It's like, and what kills me also is the way that some companies get around labeling foods with GMOs. Thank you, honey. One of my friends, his dad works at Tyson, and one of the things Tyson has been doing is they've been advertising hormone-free chicken, chickens raised hormone-free. What they fail to tell you is they inject the eggs with hormones. So yeah, the chickens were raised with no hormones, but they put the hormones in the eggs so the hormones are still there. Important things like that that people don't talk about, that a lot of people don't know about. But we definitely need to know what we're putting in our body, and we have to have the right to see if I'm going to buy a product from the store, whether or not it is a genetically modified food. And I know companies like Monsanto spend a lot of money and put a lot of money into legislators' pockets to prevent legislation like that from happening, because they know that when people start to see what's in their food and how it's affecting their bodies, they probably won't eat it. All right, so a quick update, a quick summary. Tomorrow I will be in Harrison, Arkansas. We are going to go to a BLM protest, and what this protest is this is just going to be opening conversations and starting dialogue, people talking, and it's going to be 100% peaceful. There will be no violence. Antifa will not be there. I won't condone or support anything like that. But what we do need to do is we need to talk and we need to have conversations. So I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to it again. I'm going into it with a lot more information this time rather than last week where I was ignorant going in. again. So, you know, I can't wait to talk with y'all, answer any of you guys' questions, and, you know, hopefully you guys can answer some of my questions as well. But, I mean, Harrison, it's a good town. It's full of a lot of really good people. Every community has a few bad eggs, and we can't damn an entire community for the bad acts of a select few group of people. Next week, we will be going to a protest in East End. So we'll be doing the same thing in East End, just talking with the community, listening to their concerns, how they feel about the movement, what they think the movement means, and then talking to them about what the movement is, what we think it means, and basically different ways that we can address the problems that are causing these protests and these riots around the country. Because realistically, these riots and protests, they're not the problem, they're the symptom of a problem. And if we can just address the problem and take care of the problem, then the riots and the protests will naturally secede. They'll slowly dissolve and go away. But the riots, I mean, that's just the voices of the unheard. Let me see real quick if I can. Man, I should have prepared better. There's a really good Martin Luther King speech that I want to share with y'all. And what I'll do is I will be more prepared next week, and I'll share that video again so y'all can see it. But it's a very important video, and it makes a lot of sense. Martin Luther King was a hero. A lot of people don't understand exactly how hard he fought to bring racial justice and equality to our society, and it's honestly a shame. It is, man, I don't want to say, it's almost, I'm sure he would, it's an embarrassment. It is an embarrassment that it has been, you know, about 60 years, around 60 years, and we still have not made the kind of progress that he was hoping that we could have seen within just a few. So we have a long ways to go, and I hope that we can make people proud to be America, you know, proud to be American again. People say make America great, but we don't need to worry about making America great. We need to make America proud, and once America is proud, then we'll be great. Well, I am not seeing any more questions from y'all. Let me close that up, close this, and then we'll go ahead and close. So my name's Dan Whitfield, and I'm the independent candidate running to unseat and replace Tom Cotton here in Arkansas. My website is, which way is it? It's one of those ways. It's replacetomcotton.com. So make sure you check out my website. I do Q&As every single week when it permits. At 6 o'clock p.m. Central, and I'll answer any questions y'all have. And if you go to replacetomcotton.com and click on the media tab, I upload all my live streams there, so you can see all my live streams, you can see my interviews. Some of those interviews, they cover a lot of my policies, so if you want to actually hear from my mouth what I'm talking about when I'm looking at policies, you know, check out my interviews. I do have 2 op-eds on there, which I suggest reading them both. One is Understanding Their Pain, talking about, again, you know, the more systemic problems that are causing these protests and riots. And then the other one is about ranked choice voting. Since my opponent, Tom Cotton, decided to come out with an op-ed talking about how ranked choice voting was bad, filled it and riddled it with lies and misconceptions and misinformation, I did go ahead and write an op-ed on ranked choice voting that Arkansas Money and Politics published for me, with actual facts and talk about what ranked choice voting really is. So make sure you check that out. I hope to see some of y'all in Harrison tomorrow. Again, it is going to be a peaceful demonstration. So make sure you bring your mask, social distance as much as possible, and I mean, the tensions will be high. It's really uncomfortable for people to talk about things like racial inequality, and when people want to talk about things like Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter, it's emotional. So just try to be patient, be understanding, and just listen. That's all I'm asking. Just listen. And by us being able to talk to each other and listen to each other, I think that we are going to have a productive day tomorrow with our demonstration, and I look forward to seeing you all then. let's see here. I don't have any other questions at this time. So if you do ever have any other questions, feel free to give me a call. My phone number is public information. Send me a text message if you don't want to talk to me on the phone. You can also send me a message through social media or an email. I handle all my own stuff, and I'll answer any questions that you all have at any time. So thank you guys so much. I hope you have a good evening. Be safe this Labor Day. Again, yesterday I think Arkansas reported 1,094 new COVID-19 cases. So if you are going out to the lake or to enjoy yourself, you know, make sure you are socially distancing, wearing your mask, keeping yourself, your family, and the people around you safe as well. But have a good night, y'all. My name's Dan Whitfield. I'm the independent candidate running for United States here in Arkansas. May God bless y'all, and may God bless America.